Thank you very much, Jesse. And thank you all for joining us on the last day of NAB. I know it's tough. It's been quite a week. You've probably been seeing a lot of amazing technologies and workflows and tools and applications. Today, we're very happy to have Phil Brooks, the VP of Technology with Graham Media Group, and Adam Simpson, their Director of Emerging Technologies, with us to talk about their newsroom transformation. As many of you know, there are so many challenges that newsrooms are facing today, whether it's trying to engage and inform audiences across a variety of different platforms, be first to air, deal with all of the various physical and cyber threats, and remain agile to make sure that they can deliver the content that their viewers need in the most critical moments, as well as continue to engage them and their communities. We're happy to have Graham Media with us today to talk a little bit about how they're leveraging AWS and transforming their newsroom to meet those challenges. Phil, would you please tell the audience a little bit more about Graham Media?
Sure. So, Ollie, first, thank you for the invitation. It's been great working with this guy for the last, 6, 7 months, longer before I came on board. If you haven't heard of Graham Media, we're a unique local media company. And I know that sounds, everybody says that, but we're unique in that we're a small organization. We operate 7 television stations in 6 markets. 3 of those are top 20 and 3 are top 50. So while we're a small organization, we have sort of a large metropolitan feel in our market. So we kind of have a big market punch. It does something really special for us. Adam is the Director of Emerging Technology. His focus is looking at the kind of things that Ollie is involved with cloud architecture and digital products. I come from more of a baseband, linear background. And we're unique in that we can talk to the people on the ground who push the buttons and operate equipment. And we talk to them a couple times a week, and we can listen to their feedback, go away and test things and turn out workflows that turn the company quickly when we discover a deficiency. We also operate Social News Desk, which if you're in the media industry, you've probably heard of it. It's a platform that lets media industry, other media groups and governmental agencies manage their social media posts across multiple platforms from one platform. And at the heart of it, we're local journalists. Everybody here, if you've worked in local TV for a while, you're there because you're passionate about it. You're probably not there for the money. I started as a floor sweeper many, many, many years ago when everything was manual and we were SD. And I remember my first day in a television station, I couldn't believe I got to work at a TV station. And that, the people that are in our industry, most of us still have that heart. Our focus is we serve the community. We cheer when our teams win, and we cry when they lose. And we try to inform and tell stories and be there when the big news happens, when the snowstorm happens, when the hurricane comes, whatever. We get out and serve, and people still find us. That's when people turn to us and they rely on us because that's the brand that we've built. So at the heart of Graham is local journalism.
So true. And this is the map of your station coverage. But as you mentioned, it may be 6, but it's in some of the largest markets.
Yep. Yeah. We're in Detroit. That's where our corporate headquarters is at. We have San Antonio, Houston, Jacksonville, Orlando. We operate 2 stations out of Jacksonville, and then Roanoke, Virginia. So that's our reach. Like I said, we're small and we're agile, and we love all of our directors of technology right in AB, and we were meeting with them and talking, and we really do focus on the culture of coming together as a group, listening to the insight from the whole entire group and making decisions together. So it's really not a top-down organization. It really is us building it together. So
awesome. So we've covered some of the who and some of the where. How about talking a little bit about the what and the why? Yep. What were a few of the key things that made you decide this was the time to take the journey?
Right. So about 8 months, a year ago, we took some minds like Adam, our Director of Emerging Technology, and we put him in the stations to just walk around and evaluate workflows. I think Ali was a part of that at some point as well. We really wanted a fresh take on workflows. So everybody knows our picture quality is better. We can fit 65 megabits and StatMux that into a 15 megabit stream now. So, our processing power is better. Our camera quality is better. Our switchers have more downstream keyers. All that's better. But what really hasn't changed a lot in the last 20 years is the workflow, like who's pushing what button, when, and why. And we really needed a fresh perspective of that. And when we took, somebody with more of a modern idea of how things can be done and examined those workflow, we said, wow, in the last 20 years, we're still using flip phones. and everybody else has this modern smartphone where they can consume content on multiple platforms from anywhere, and they can also stand in the middle of the street and create it at the same time, which they do quite too often. So how do we modernize our workflows so that we can create content as efficiently as everybody else out there in the world? Most of us, and that's really the question we asked ourselves. I would say, this is kind of a technology a shift this year. It is somewhat of a platform shift, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the biggest shift is a mindset shift, and that's easy for me to. It sounds like a high level thing and a cloud in the sky, but it really is a mindset shift. And so that's the why. Smart people went and looked at what we did and said, "Hey, we can do that better." And then it's up to us to sort of come up with a plan, work with partners like Ollie here to put us in touch with the right people to find the technology to support that and the platform to build it on.
Absolutely. And it's been a pleasure working with you. Talking a little bit about moving from sort of that traditional rundown centric type workflow and the silos. Can you tell us, just share with the audience a little bit of the inefficiencies that we were seeing across the operation?
Yeah. So the question here, are we still building newsrooms that stack linear shows? If I went to most newsrooms around the company, around the country, and asked them what a story was, they would think of it as a slug and a rundown for a linear hit that they have to make. And we have to, and I've been through a transformation processes at with the last group I was with before I came over to Graham, and hindsight's always 20/20, and we learn and we get better. And at the end of that transformation process, I remember going to our newsroom to build and we'll talk about this on the next slide, a digital product. And what I found was a newsroom full of people still stacking for a slug and a linear rundown, right? And we really have to, we're going to talk about story-centric, and everybody's heard story-centric. Story-centric is simply the mind shift that we start as creative people with an idea. We move that. We all agree that it should be a story, and then we treat all platforms the same, and linear happens to be one of those platforms. So that's the question. And I still have a flip phone on my desk that I play with when we're on Zoom calls to remind me that we have to get there, and we have to put fire breaks in place to make sure that we get there. At the end of the transformation, if we still just rebuilt what we were doing in a fancy new cloud-based architecture, then we failed, and we can't fail and we won't fail. We have to make the change. So.
And that's such a key point of not just lifting and shifting your existing workflow to some new tools or to the cloud, but truly figuring out what is the end destination and working backwards from there, and making sure that you're achieving your business and operational goals and enabling your team to do that.
Yep. Yeah. It always starts, anything that I've ever built in my career, working station side is where I came from. Always started with what's the best studio I can build regardless of cost, and then how do I achieve that goal? And that's what we're doing here. And my light bulb moment, because I was very into building transmitters, a 24/7 one-to-many broadcast air chain, maintaining our studios and our cameras and everything to support linear. And I remember I was several years back, I was and the digital was kind of a bolt-on to a lot of us that worked station side for so many years. We can admit it. I'm admitting it to the world, because you're concerned with what you have your hands on, right? What's in front of you. And I remember I was in a department head meeting. My DOS turned to me and said, "I need more digital ad rolls. I've got such a high demand, and it could help me make up my, the deficit that we have." And I was like, "Wow, I need to start thinking and planning the digital infrastructure right alongside my linear. I walked down the hall to, I began building something. I had a nice stream. It was beautiful. It was like, how am I going to put content in this? And that's when I went to the newsroom and found everybody was really just planning for a slug and a rundown still after all the effort that we had made. And then, I wound up coming over here to Graham and meeting with Michael, who's our director of transformation. He's in the crowd, and this guy at the end, who these are, they're genius minds who think outside the box and figuring out a way to knock down the silo between the brick and mortar and the linear side, bring us together, and let's all work for the content and for the story so that everywhere our consuming audience that loves our brand, and we have a lot of people out there, don't underestimate your brand. If you're station side and you're listening to me, people still know you, they still trust you, but we want to put that brand in every store, on every shelf that consumers in our local markets want to consume media on. That's the goal, right? We want to be there. And then we want to build the best platform for our brands that if they fall in love with us, wherever they're at, they can come to us and they can consume have the best experience at our store, on our shelf. That's what we're trying to do. So more digital ad rolls, Ollie.
That's such an important point about meeting the audience where they're at and being able to provide them with compelling content on the platform that they want to consume it, with the style that they want to consume it in, like whether it's, something short form or vertical, or being able to take the amazing content you have and meet the customer where and how they want to be met. And also thinking about the importance of providing the tools to your wonderful creators and your photographers, editors, journalists who are working day to day to gather that content and power these workflows. We started talking about partners that could help you achieve both of those goals. And can you share with the audience some of the partners that we've been leveraging and using to help you analyze and achieve these goals?
Yeah, so a lot of our platforms traditionally, and a lot of it's still the same way, and probably most of the ecosystem, a lot of us are thinking along these lines and moving that way. Most of our platforms were on-prem, they were rack and stack. You make an initial investment and it ages out in 5 years, but you keep it for 10 and you kind of stay stuck in a workflow that you can't change for up to 10 years. That's where Adam and Michael came in, with partners like AWS. These are partners, Ali, that our digital teams have lived in for a long time, and they live and breathe it. And professional services arm over at over at AWS that brought in Quest to help us think through this mind shift of what is story centric and how do we focus on story first and blow everybody's mind up. And then AWS Elemental and partners like 12 Labs that give us, looks like you got something to say. What do you want to say?
And this is really just the cultural shift for us.
Yeah.
It's basically doing what Phil was talking about, taking our content, not just for using our broadcast to post on Twitter and trying to cover up the lower third. It's teaching us how we can actually reuse our story to publish on other platforms and build the content for that platform in a way that's built for that platform too. So with the help of 12 Labs, Quest, AWS Professional Services, absolutely amazing partners that got us through that. Jimmy right over there too.
Yep.
Hiding behind his hat. It was really just an amazing cultural shift for us. Normally I expect pushback from every single level on this kind of cultural shift. But with the help of these partners, it's been really a thrilling roller coaster for us. Everybody is on board. Everybody is happy to move with us and be partners with us. We're not seen as corporate coming here and demanding things. We're coming in as equal partners, and corporate is here to help them do better. And that's really it.
Yeah, and that partnership is so important on both sides. Like when we're successful, you're successful. When you're successful, we're successful, and similar with our partners. And we truly do appreciate your tremendous partnership and the alignment that you've been able to help drive across all the teams. I know we're at the very beginning of our journey, but can you share with the audience like some of the benefits that you're already seeing and realizing?
Right. And just to go back to what Adam said, when we started our transformation, this is not, it really is not a top-down transformation. It's in all of us. I think this came out in one of our roundtables that we were at about the culture piece of it. The people that are going to make the change and the geniuses that make the magic of content happen, they're at the local stations. They're on editorial staffs. They're pushing buttons in control rooms. They're photographers who go out and get the video. And we gathered all those people in the room on day one. And Ali, you were there. And the very first thing that we said to them was that, will you take the journey with us? Help us figure out the workflow, and can we build this together? And that's really what we've stuck with really great genius minds behind architecture, so you can listen to their feedback. Say, well, we don't know how to do that, but give us a day, and we'll figure out how to do it. But actually, our partners at Quest have been instrumental in that because the first call we had with them, I said, has anybody here worked in a newsroom? And it was no, but that was a really good. That was. Looking back now, it was probably the most beneficial part of it, because they could think outside of the box, and we could come to them with a problem, and they just focus on the workflow and the process. So that helped out a lot. So somewhere between Houston and Corpus Christi was where I realized we had captured magic in a bottle. We were in the staging environment, and we were trying to figure out if this was going to work, and we were proving the concept. And we had stood up just enough where we could do real-time ingest directly into our S3 bucket from our routers at our station. And we had live view ingesting real-time, so we weren't going on-prem anymore. And I was in a car in the passenger seat commuting back to Corpus, and our Houston DOT calls it the most boring drive in the world, because it's like you're on the moon. Sometimes it feels like you're in the middle of nowhere. And I had just a hotspot on my cell phone, and I was on my laptop. And I spun up an ingest in Roanoke and started cutting the video, and this was all done in a web browser on a PC. And I started landing the video in a Houston rundown. I'm like, oh, I think we have something here. I quickly captured the workflow, recorded it, sent it to our leadership. Like, yeah, whatever the hangups we had about on-prem, we got to lose those, and we have to do this.
You're accelerating, like that's such a great example of accelerating the ability for your teams to get the content that they want wherever they may be and start working with it and creating compelling derivative content.
Yep.
And driving between Houston and Corpus Christi in the passenger seat, which is good. We're not encouraging edit while driving quite yet until the agentic workflows come. But we're super excited to see that. And let's talk a little bit more about some of your other immediate goals. You've got a lot going on these days.
Right. So this slide here, Drop in the Ocean, just talks about the way we can search content now. As if you've been at a station, you know that when you search for something that played in the past, you're probably searching an archive of the scripts that you wrote and trying to link together to find the video that played with that script. We've kind of broken that apart, and when we create content now, we put metadata directly with the content. It's all searchable in a cloud S3 bucket. And I like to liken it I used to work at a television station. We had a great German guy who kept our parts closet organized. When he left, it fell into complete disarray. And so you're working on a project on the bench, you can't find anything. You got to drive to the store, repurchase it, come back, and then get it out late for less money, and it's completely inefficient. And that's what we do a lot of times. We can't find the content we created. We turn and burn it. We lose it. It's a drop in an ocean. And so it's just not efficient. So it has to be easy to find. It has to be frictionless to share. And we shouldn't be making it, going and making the content again if we've already made it before. So that's what the slide is. That's one of the things we want to achieve, and we will achieve on day one, is frictionless sharing across our organizations. And then this year, we're focused on MVP. That is to build a great house for our organization to live in before we kind of burn the other one down, knock the other one down. When we start, we're going to start with well thought out AI that assists people in their process. We don't take the thought process away from our content creators. We give them tools that help them go faster and do better and not do redundant tasks, and keep them agile. And Adam will talk about get into the AI tools here in a bit, but so that you could go from idea to output quicker across multiple platforms with bespoke content for those platforms. Not, as Adam was talking earlier, a lot of our digital strategies of broadcasters have been slice up the linear, right? And then we have to start making real content and taking the platform serious.
So it really is about how do we get the story out to our viewing public immediately? We need to get rid of the kind of self-imposed embargo that broadcast brings in when we prioritize just the rundown. Because right now it's basically wait till it goes on air, push it out to the website. But our public demands better. They demand to hear the breaking news as it happens, not as we broadcast it. They really demand to see it where they are. And we can't expect them to always come to us. We need to go to them. It's really a mind shift for a lot of our media kind of partners that I know a lot of us do the same type of things in our newsrooms, kind of expect that digital is the backseat kind of player lately, but it's got to change. So we are using things like real-time transcription that will help our editors really look through the transcript, select the words that they want, create a rough edit based on that. Semantic search to help us find really things from our archive that could potentially be used. If it's a story about the Ambassador Bridge in Detroit, let's go find and search for a video of the Ambassador Bridge at dusk with a Ford in front of it or something like that. And it's really helping us not have to roll trucks for content that can be reused. I'm a little blind at the moment, I think. So we can use AI to help us really second guess our journalists, help them really see the bigger picture, find the angles that they may be missing, find the community relations or links that they may be missing. And it's not really, everybody says, like human in the middle. I think it's AI in the middle is the best way to really say it. We're just using AI to really help them speed up and look at things in different lights. We're not replacing them. If they're not writing the stories, it's really just helping them boost their productivity. And then I'm blind again. Format rewriting. This will help us really take our long form and go to short form or to broadcast, help us get a script built just as a template for the producer to go in and start rewriting, or for the digital team to really start getting all of the Twitter posts, the Facebook, all of that, just a head start on it. Like I said, we will never publish that directly from AI. It's just a head start and to get things moving, and you don't have to just context switch every time you're going to a different platform or a different window. And like we've said, meet the audience where they live. We need to go to them, be on every store shelf, like Phil says, and really our audience demands us to be where they are, and we really need to go for that.
Love it. In addition to some of the AI pillars that you described in the previous slide, there's also some other very cool things you're working on. Can you share that with the audience?
Yeah, and these are some of the things that I can share. And I'm going to embarrass Michael sitting up here. This is something that he built over a couple of free weekends that I think his daughter was out at gymnastics. One of the things we really want is community engagement. We want people to be able to talk to our journalists, to our meteorologists, and we're trying to find ways to really bring them into the fold to talk to our viewers live as they're going, but it needs to be really 24 hours a day. We can't have our great meteorologist, Jonathan, who you may have seen around the show, showing this off in different presentations. They're all day long. He needs to do other things, sleep. He might be a robot, but he does need sleep. So we're actually developed our own kind of AI personality to help him and help our viewers kind of see the weather that's happening off air. So meet Graham. We're Graham Media Group. We created Graham, who is a Doppler radar. Kind of hard to see on that, but This is kind of just a demo that we're creating. We're also putting this on ATSC3. There's going to be live chat. People can go in, talk to Graham, ask them about weather in, let's say, Sugar Land, Texas for the next 3 days. And Graham will go and actually zoom in on Sugar Land, Texas using our Barron weather systems. We can also have Jonathan right there jump into the stream at any point, and he can start controlling things. But Graham will also be there to help him kind of look at the bigger picture. He may be focused on this storm in Grand Rapids, Michigan, but he's missing one in Cook County, Illinois. There may have been a funnel cloud there. And Graham popped in and said, there's this huge storm that just developed in Illinois. Why don't you go take a look at that? So it's allowing Jonathan to keep his focus on what he's doing and kind of have an interactive back and forth and another buddy to sit there and work with them. We do have other meteorologists working, but they may be covering different angles. And it's just a better way for us to kind of work with our communities, tell them more, and amplify what we're doing.
Yeah, and Graham is smart enough to drive the maps when he said it, but it's really cool because they can interact and talk to each other about the weather. So,
and that's such a great example of what you were both talking about, of AI in the middle. It's to help your staff and your teams accomplish their jobs more effectively, and then the engagement that you can drive with audience who now don't have to rely on when is Jonathan awake, and the wonder when the few hours when Jonathan's asleep, if they have questions about the weather, they can now ask Graham.
Exactly.
That's really awesome. Can you please, for the folks a little bit more technical in the audience, can you tell us a little bit about the tools that you used and how you accomplished this?
Yeah, so we are heavy Amazon Media Services users, have been for a long time. Is kind of my bread and butter, but we're also pulling in things like Amazon Bedrock. I don't have to go sign a contract, get that kind of figured out, get a budget with my CFO. It's all coming in my invoice, and we can jump around different models from different vendors, and the content or all of the data is staying within our account too. It's all available right there. We don't have to switch really different SDKs that we're going through. Makes it super easy for us to pull in these AI resources to help us do things like that. Obviously our S3 for our storage, Lambda that we rely on so heavily, and I think pay $5 a month for, or ECS to really help us scale horizontally and not vertically.
That agility, so now you have the elasticity, the resiliency, all of the things that the cloud provides, but just this agility to experiment, try new things, spin stuff up, spin things down if it doesn't work. If it does work, then easily scale it. How is that changing your team's mindset and what you're able to do?
Oh, it's absolutely changing our team's mindset. And to be honest, it's something that we've been doing for a very long time, and our teams are amazing at it. But we are not needing to go buy pizza boxes every time we need to do something else. I don't know if anybody watches Elton Brown, but he does not like unitaskers in his kitchen. He won't buy a knife built for an avocado when you can just have a knife that can cut everything else. Yeah, that's the way we really need to approach it. We need to use the right services that can do everything we need, do them quickly, do them reliably, cut down on costs, and really help us move as fast as humanly possible without having the constraints of normal kind of local data center services. And so this is another thing that we've been working on for a long time. One of my favorite ideas that came out of one of our developers, Aaron. If you're watching this, Aaron, great work. This is our AI editorial meeting assistant. So everybody here that's in media probably knows the editorial meetings. Get everybody together, talk about the day's stories, do some pitches, and see how things go. Normally, you'll need to have a few people writing notes or somebody with an amazing memory, something better than me. But we developed a little meeting assistant that will go and listen to our meetings. It will show this screen that you're seeing on the right on a big screen behind everybody, and it listens for the stories and the conversations that are involved with those stories. and it compiles them all together and gives a report on like what was talked about, what the angles that are being discussed, where we should start prioritizing sending our trucks, who should go, which is great and all, and we can send reports. But next step is really, how do we put this into our pitch system? So we are bringing these stories and directly to our pitch system that will convert these to the story-centric workflow and really stop the documentation, having to transcribe your notes into something else, and things may get lost in translation. This is one of our biggest workflow productivity boosters that we put in, and it's taken off like a rocket too. Pretty amazing work from one developer, and I think maybe 5 hours to get this going.
Awesome.
And then story idea generation, using data like that, using data from different social platforms with our partner and company that we own called Social News Desk. If you guys aren't using them, please do check them out. They're pretty great.
Yep.
We can pull in a lot of social data from our markets, see what's going on, what people are talking about, kind of look at the overall kind of local media, to look at the stories that really might matter right now that we might be missing. And we can use AI to completely just bring those together, bring us key points, what to look at, what to research, where to start going, and get those pitched or create stories depending on the severity of them. And we've had people that have done this before that may be their job, but why do we need people sitting there doing this stuff when we need those people out in the field actually telling the stories of our communities and talking to people? And this brings us really to transforming content across platforms. I've talked about this a couple of times where we can actually take all of our either long form, short form, and start using those to create different versions of it and really get the speed. And it helps us get out of writer's block a little bit, helps the journalists really move faster. And I will say this a million times, we will never post this word for word at all. It's just a speed increase. And the goal is get the story, build the story, get these out as fast as possible to the right locations. And the producers. So one of the things that Phil talked about was me going around to our stations and looking at workflows. I spent a week with producers in San Antonio at our KSAT station, and my goal was to document everything a producer does. So I could be knowledgeable and I can share that knowledge with everybody, and we can come up with the Graham way of doing things. What I came back with was heartburn, anxiety, and fear. I couldn't believe the amount of things that those producers do, how they have to communicate with people, whether it's over Teams, Slack, text messages, somehow collaborating on a script with a journalist in the field over email, which is straight up 1995. We needed to find better ways to speed up their workflows, but we need to go further than just giving them the proper tools. How can we look at the traffic from all of our websites, all of our socials, to see what is really getting momentum? Our producers may not be able to pay attention to everything that's happening on those platforms, but we can bring that data in to say that this story really might work best at the top of the B block and give them suggestions on how they can start stacking the shows better. Right now, well, right before this, our stories were really disposable.
Yeah.
And we just basically aired them and it was thrown on the floor and we just kept going. If it was a big story, we would reuse it, but this will help us really push those stories out to different newscasts and get the information out to different audiences that may be watching at different times and on different platforms. And then our instant start over newscast replay is something that I've been working on with the help of AWS Media Package. This gives us one live stream URL that allows us to start from the beginning of a newscast should the user want to do that, or go back. I believe I can do 14 days right now and start watching newscast from the beginning with the full experience of a linear newscast. You can scrub around as well, but this gives us the ability to cheaply and quickly give a DVR experience to our end user without having to bring in other services or really store the content multiple different times over and over and over.
So this is just the beginning of our journey and
the things we can talk about.
And we realized the timer wasn't started and we've actually gone a little bit over time. But on that topic, like, just thinking about everything in terms of how you've been able to accelerate content velocity, how you've been able to accelerate organizational velocity, all of the great things you've already accomplished in such a short period, and the agility that you have to continue to experiment, try new things, scale when successful. Are there any, like in the last 30 seconds, are there any hints, like looking back at what you've been doing, your successes, are there any hints that you'd give to the audience of things to keep in mind or strategies for ensuring success?
Listen to the people that do the work. I mean, the process for us started with Adam going and not with the right heart to really look, okay, what are the challenges you have? How can I, with my knowledge set, make that better? Everything I've ever built in my engineering career started by listening to somebody complain about how something worked, and that's how you find the solution. And then making sure that they feel like they have input into the solution. And when you do that, you dump fuel on people's creative fires that, they all got into the industry because they love doing it. And you just you put fuel on that fire. That's the way to find your way through and find good partners.
I would agree with the people. We can't do this in a vacuum as technologists. We don't know the day-to-day. We don't know the cruft that people put up with. We really need to work with our people that actually work with the problems and overcome them, basically by sheer will and talent, to figure out the solutions. We need to listen to every single complaint, no matter if it's somebody that doesn't want to change or just doesn't really want to talk to you. I like to say there's truth in every complaint.
Yeah.
Just let people vent, let people go off and try to figure out how to make things better.
Yeah.
We will, with that kind of mindset, we will make the best product for the people too. It's not a technology problem we're really trying to solve. We're bringing technology to solve workflow and really cultural issues.
Yeah, I like to tell our technology staffs, we have to love them through the change. Sometimes it can be really hard, and when you're interrupting a workflow that may have been in place for somebody's whole career, that's hard. There's muscle memory there. I remember when I was at TD and they changed my monitor wall, I was lost, right? Because I'm used to looking where I need to look. So you really have to listen to people, let them vent, hear their complaints, and then join with them to find the solution.
Such great points. Phil, Adam, we truly appreciate you joining us here today and sharing some of your incredible insights and what you're doing with the projects and Graham Media's newsroom transformation with the audience here. It's been a wonderful journey with you, and we're looking forward to continuing that journey. And thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you too.
Thanks.